Welcome back to part 2. There was a time in my life where I dealt with 2 Machiavellian narcissists at the same time. I was working for one in a retail shop and I was dating the other. This is the second story. This guy was on demon time. I swear he had a demon clock that went from sunup till sundown. Each time the clock chimed, he stepped up his demonizing. In a span of 3 months, this Machiavellian narcissist did the following. First, we met in school and he lived in the boys' dormitory on campus. My first clue should have been when the other guys in the dormitory waited for him to go to sleep and then superglued his dorm room shut. And the next morning, he had to call security to come break through the superglue and let him out of his room. He played the poor me victim and I was dumb enough to believe it. My next clue should have been when he ignored me in public and kept talking to other girls in my face. When I confronted him about this, he blamed it all on me. My next clue should have been when he couldn't remember my name. I was uneducated and there were several clues that I missed. In a span of 3 months, he did the following. Let's start with deceit. He made a duplicate set of keys, stole my car, took one of his girlfriends joyriding in my car, then tried to say he was rushing her to the hospital. But she was dancing in the parking lot, which is not typical behavior of someone who was just rushed to the hospital. Let's move on to future faking. Future faking is when a person lies or promises something about your possible future in order to get what they want in the present. It could be as basic as promising that they will call you later and then never calling. This is different from ghosting. This is promising you something in the future and then just not doing it. This guy future faked me by stating that he had won $30 million on the lottery. He didn't say which lottery, but he said they wouldn't give him the $30 million because he's black. Even though I saw other black people win the lottery and they got their money, I did question this and he just kept saying the money was going to come in. Next, he tried to isolate me from my family. He wanted all of my attention, but did not want to give me any attention. If I had a family event, he wouldn't show up. And if I went to an event without him, he would get mad. It came to a point where he actually wanted me to spend more time with him than my family, yet didn't want to pay any attention to me while I was spending time with him. This makes no sense. Then, he tried to rush me into marriage. This guy met me on a Tuesday and was already talking about marriage by Friday of the same week. I told him, no, we cannot get married. I barely know you. He became enraged and took my no as a rejection and kept saying that I didn't love him enough. If I'd only loved him as much as he loves me, we can be at the altar on Sunday. I said, no, this is not going to happen this way. For the next few months, he pressured me to marry him, and each time I said no, he became more and more enraged. He said he has other girls in line waiting to marry him, but I should be fortunate that he chose me over them. But he still could have them if he wanted to. He told me that I couldn't do any better than him, nobody else wanted me, and that I needed him more than he needed me because I couldn't think for myself and couldn't take care of myself. I was to understand that without him, my life would be absolutely nothing. I disagreed with all of those flawed logics. In addition to this nonsense, he kept standby girls, just in case I left him. I asked him, when is he going to get rid of his standby girls? He said after I marry him, he will get rid of the standby girls. I said, why can't you get rid of them before we get married if we're going to get married? He stated that marriage is just a piece of paper, and he was allowed to have all the girls he wanted right up until the wedding date. After we kiss and exchange rings, then he tells the girls to leave. But until then, the girls were going to stay. My response was, and this is why we will never be married. Little did I know that this is a sign of narcissism with emphasis on control. He was hearing voices. I confronted him on the lies, and he told me to be quiet while conscience was talking. I asked, what is conscience? I said, what is this now? Every day you come up with something else stupid. What is a conscience talking? He said it was the voice that talks to everybody. Everybody has a conscience, and he couldn't listen to conscience and me at the same time. I told him he was hearing voices and that's not normal. He insisted that everybody has a conscience that talks to them, and his is just louder than everybody else's. Then he would tell me what conscience just said. Naturally, conscience was contradicting anything that I was saying. Surprise, surprise. So not only was I arguing with him, I was also arguing with his schizophrenia, but I didn't know it. I thought he was just joking around or acting silly. I didn't realize until later that this is called command hallucinations. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Again, I was uneducated and thinking like a logical person and did not know that I was dealing with an illogical person. This guy was so off kilter that he almost got us killed. We were at the red light, making a left turn, when he saw people turning right on red. He said if they can turn right on red, then I should be able to turn left on red. I told him, no, that's incorrect. I hope you're kidding right now. He said, no, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's unfair that they can turn right on red, but I can't turn left on red. I said, please tell me you're just joking around. You know full well you cannot turn left on red while traffic is going. He said, watch me. And then he ran the red light and dodged the flowing traffic. As usual, there were no police around. I yelled at him, are you crazy? He said, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If they can turn right on red, then I can turn left on red. I thought about this and have come to the conclusion that either he was totally disconnected from any and all reality, or he was actually trying to get us hit so he could kill me. I'm still on the fence about this, but I think he was trying to kill me. That's when I started to plan my exit from this creep, but didn't know how. Physical assaults. He tried to physically attack me, which resulted in him on the floor flat on his back, after I did a leg sweep and a punch to the torso. After those beatdowns, he didn't try that anymore. Random girl that never showed up to graduation. He was graduating and told me the whole day was ruined because some girl didn't show up to the graduation. I asked him why he was worried about some other girl if I was supposed to be his girlfriend. He said he really wanted this other girl to come to the graduation, and he was highly upset that she didn't show up. I tried to give him a gift for his graduation, but he said that he didn't even want the gift because the other girl didn't show up. The whole day was just ruined. 3-way voice message. He left a voice message on my phone and then put himself on 3-way with one of his friends and then recorded the whole 30-minute conversation on the answering machine. He admitted that he didn't care for me. He was using me. He had other girls, Nina, Vanessa, Tammy, and Tracy, and he admitted that he was going to tell me to leave. When confronted with all of this, he said that it wasn't him. He played the victim. He blamed me. He cried. He made promises that he knew were false, future faking round 2, and then tried to future fake me again with the $30 million story. Lied, and lied. I called him out on all of these lies and exposed the truth. All he would do was get angry because I exposed the truth. He claimed to be religious and love the Lord when in fact he was Satan in the flesh. I cut him off completely because I'd had enough. I was done. Threatening suicide. I blocked his number and with no contact on this fool. He moved back home, which was 1.5 hours away from me. He called from a friend's number first, claiming that he had arranged the wedding and bought me a dress and all I had to do was show up. I hung up on him. He called back claiming that the church was full of guests and I had stood him up at the altar. I told him that he is a liar. There is no church, no guests, and no dress. Quit calling me. I hung up and blocked that number. He called from another number, claiming that he can't go into the church without me. He would be too embarrassed. It would have to tell everyone that I was not the woman they thought I was. I hung up on him and I blocked the number. He called again from a different number. I said, "How many phones do you have, fool?" This time he was crying and threatening to kill himself. I said good and hung up. Somebody like that loves themselves too much to kill themselves. I knew he wasn't going to do it. He called all day and I stopped answering. After 2 days, he stopped calling. I was done. Done, and done. The aftermath. I saw him 13 years later in a totally different city on my lunch break. I was walking to the subway. I glanced at him, recognized him, and kept on walking like I didn't know who he was. He recognized me and struggled to remember my name. Present day. He is now in one prison, waiting to be extradited to another prison after he serves the first sentence. He created a city, stole over $25,000 from it, and was sentenced to federal prison for 3 years. He got out after 3 months and continued his lying, crime spree, and other devilish activities. This was funny to me. Every beating he gets in prison, each time someone does damage to him, I consider it a win for me. Hallelujah. These things I've mentioned in this video are at the top of the list for the shenanigans that this guy pulled. He did way more devious, underhanded, demonic acts that I don't even want to relive.